The first thing Joren Bradford noticed was the smell. Sterile, chemical, and slightly metallic, definitely not earth. He blinked, disoriented, trying to process the ceiling above him. It was a dull teal color, glowing faintly with pulses that reminded him of a jellyfish. He tried sitting up, but a sharp bolt of pain shot through his side, yanking a groan from his throat. "Remain stationary," a voice said, calm and firm. Joren turned his head slightly. Standing beside him was a tall, angular creature with lavender skin and 4 arms. Each hand held a different tool, 2 of which seemed to be actively sterilizing each other. "Where am I?" Joren croaked. "You are aboard the medical deck of the Coalition ship Rex," the being replied. "You sustained multiple injuries during atmospheric reentry. You are currently stabilized but require immediate surgical intervention." Joren squinted. "Wait, reentry? As in, from space?" The alien blinked at least. Joren assumed it was a blink. Its eyes were vertical slits, shifting in hue from soft yellow to deep green. "Correct. You were aboard a damaged freighter that attempted emergency landing procedures on Lixer 4. The impact compromised your lower ribs and caused internal hemorrhaging. You also have a fractured femur." Joren let his head drop back onto the cushioned surface beneath him. "Well, that explains the vacation going south." The alien didn't react. No chuckle. Not even a twitch. Joren sighed. "I'm Nurse Vel. I will assist Surgeon Krell during the operation." "Great," Joren said, wincing as he tried adjusting his arm. "Tell Krell I prefer tequila after surgery. Or at least dinner first." Vel turned to a console and tapped a few pads. "You are exhibiting signs of disorientation. I will increase the sedative slightly." No, don't drug me into oblivion yet. I'm just coping." The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Another alien entered, shorter, broader, with bioluminescent patterns across its chest. Its voice bubbled like underwater sonar, but a translator attached to its shoulder rendered it into flat but understandable English. "Mr. Bradford, I am Krell. We will begin surgery shortly. Please remain calm." Joren nodded too. "Look, I'm calm. Just a bit worried about letting underwater Picasso here poke around my insides." Vel moved closer. "Your humor is a symptom of trauma response. It is not uncommon among your species." "It's not trauma. It's comedy gold," Joren muttered. "You check for bleeding. I'll check for punchlines." The surgical platform hummed as it began to recline. Joren's limbs were gently restrained, not tightly, but enough to keep him from flailing. Above, a series of mechanical arms descended, each tipped with unfamiliar instruments that shimmered in the pale blue light. "Administering local neural dampener," Vel announced. Joren felt a cool sensation wash over his side, like menthol spreading beneath his skin. The pain dulled but didn't vanish entirely. "So, what happens if you sneeze mid-incision? Do I get a free appendectomy?" Vel looked at Krell, clearly puzzled. "He continues to make disassociated verbalizations." "He is attempting humor," Krell said. "Is that safe?" "He appears lucid." "I'm right here, Joren said. "And yes, I am lucid. I'm just trying to distract myself from the fact that 2 aliens are about to root around in my guts." Krell extended a soft probe and inserted it into Joren's side. There was pressure, but no pain. "You have a partially ruptured spleen. We will seal and reinforce the tissue." Joren winced. "You sure you're not just going to swap it with a glowing orb and tell me it's an upgrade?" Vel looked at Krell again. "He believes we would replace his organs for amusement." Krell didn't stop working. "That is statistically inaccurate." "Comforting," Joren muttered. The operation continued, and Joren kept up a steady stream of commentary. He cracked jokes about the tools, asked if one of the instruments was a salad tong, and at one point compared Vel's posture to a yoga instructor trying to do taxes. Vel eventually paused, 2 of his hands hovering uncertainly. Patient's verbal output remained steady. "Is this a form of distress signal?" "It's a coping mechanism," Krell replied. "I'm right here." Joren said again, louder. "We are aware," Krell said. Hours passed, though Joren lost track of time under the low humming anesthesia and strange, rhythmic beeping that filled the room. His jokes slowed eventually, his voice growing weaker. "Hey, if I don't make it," he whispered, "tell my sister she still owes me $50. Vel leaned in. "You have a sibling?" "Yeah, Rachel." "Don't worry, she's tougher than I am." "You are not in mortal danger," Krell stated. "Still, $50. The surgery ended with a final hiss and sealing glow over his side. Krell stepped back, cleaning his tools with expert speed. They'll apply a thin bandage made of some semi-transparent film. Operation complete. You will require rest and gradual mobility exercises. Full recovery is projected at approximately 8 Earth weeks. Joren exhaled slowly, eyes fluttering shut. 8 weeks? Ugh, that's gonna ruin my softball season. Soft? Ball? Vel asked. Never mind. Just wake me when I can stand. Vel watched as Joren drifted into a sedated sleep. He turned to Krell. His speech patterns were unpredictable. He interwove humor with physiological distress. I almost increased his sedative again. Krell cleaned the surgical tray. Humans process stress through vocal absurdity. It is a known behavior. It hindered concentration. It also kept him conscious and cooperative. In some ways, it helped. Vel filed the data into the patient log. I will observe further. Perhaps acclimate to this behavior. Krell paused before exiting. You may need to. There are 2 more humans arriving tomorrow. Vel's shoulders sagged slightly. Understood. 2 days later, Joren sat upright in the recovery bay, gripping the edge of the bed with a wince. His side ached, a deep, pulling kind of pain that made every breath feel like chewing glass. A translucent brace wrapped around his chest, gently pulsing with supportive pressure. Vel entered holding a tray. Hydration supplements. You must consume all of it. Is that the alien version of chicken soup? Vel placed the tray down. It is a nutrient-infused liquid designed to accelerate cellular regeneration. Tastes like sadness, doesn't it? Vel blinked. It is flavor neutral. Joren took a sip. Yep, sadness. Vel watched him closely. Does your humor persist even during pain? Honestly? Yeah. If I stop trying to laugh, I start thinking about how much this hurts, and how I might not walk right for weeks. Or how I almost died. So, jokes. Vel turned away, making notes. I see. Then perhaps I was wrong to assume delirium. You thought I was delirious? You made remarks during the operation about surgical tools being kitchen utensils. It was difficult to understand if you were coherent. Joren coughed, then held his side with a wince. No, I was just terrified and trying to stay sane. Vel considered this, then offered the smallest nod. I will inform the surgical team. This behavior may recur with other humans. You're adjusting, Joren said. Vel tilted his head. I must. You are not the last human who will need care. Joren leaned back slowly, the brace giving a soft whir as it adjusted. Next time, just laugh. Or at least pretend to. Vel picked up the empty cup. I will attempt to simulate amusement. Joren gave a tired grin. That's all I can ask. Vel turned to leave, but paused at the door. Mr. Bradford. Your spleen is intact, your bones are mending, and your vitals are strong. That's good news. You are resilient. Joren nodded. Yeah, we're a stubborn bunch. Vel left, the door hissing shut behind him. Alone again, Joren sank back against the bed, exhausted but satisfied. For now, he would rest. The jokes could wait. 4 days later, Joren was standing for the 3rd time that morning, his balance tentative and gait more of a shuffle than a walk. The rehabilitation chamber was circular, softly lit, and smelled faintly of ozone and something that reminded him of eucalyptus. A curved wall displayed his posture in real time, and every time his hips tilted too far or his shoulders dropped unevenly, a soft tone echoed through the room like a disappointed violin. Vel hovered nearby, 2 of his hands folded behind his back, the other 2 holding a stabilization harness that had not yet been deployed. Your center of gravity is inconsistent, Vel said, not unkindly. You are compensating with your left leg. This will slow recovery. I'm not compensating, Joren said, teeth clenched. That leg's just protesting. You must distribute weight evenly. The musculoskeletal bracing is calibrated for symmetrical stress. Yeah, well, my bones didn't get the memo. Vel tapped an icon on the wall with his lower hand. A pair of slender mechanical arms descended from the ceiling and projected a grid across the floor. You will walk to the far wall, turn, and return. Maintain alignment with the markers. Do I get a sticker if I make it? You will receive protein supplements. Joren sighed and took a hesitant step forward. The grid lines pulsed softly under his feet, and every time he veered, the lines flared orange. By the 3rd misstep, he stopped and looked over his shoulder. Okay, but hear me out. What if we just accepted that I'm a little crooked now, and made it a personality trait? That would result in muscular imbalance and permanent gait distortion. I was being rhetorical. Vel blinked. I am still adjusting to those. Joren resumed walking, slower this time, focusing on each step. The brace around his ribs adjusted as he moved, applying subtle pressure to correct his posture. Sweat gathered at his temples by the time he reached the far wall. I feel like a marionette with a hangover, he muttered. Your form improved by 7%. I'll take it. He turned and made his way back, his pace steadier now. By the time he reached Vel again, his legs trembled, but he didn't collapse. Vel entered a note into his wrist console. You have completed the morning therapy cycle. You may rest. You say that like it's a reward. It is necessary. Your tissue repair is ahead of schedule, but overexertion could reverse progress. Joren limped to a reclining bench near the wall and lowered himself carefully. The bench adjusted automatically, lifting his legs and applying a mild vibration to his calves. I'll say this much, he said, eyes closed. Your tech is fancy. Back home, rehab involved elastic bands and a physical therapist named Greg yelling at me. Vel tilted his head. Is yelling considered therapeutic? In Greg's case, yes. He had a very motivational kind of rage. Vel took a seat across from him, folding two arms while the others continued noting data. Are all human recovery methods so aggressive? Not all, Joren said. But we do respond well to being challenged. Tell us we can't do something, and suddenly we're doing it just to prove a point. Vel paused. That explains your insistence on removing the mobility harness yesterday. I didn't like the way it was looking at me. It has no eyes. Exactly. They sat in silence for a moment, the soft hum of the chamber's systems filling the space. Then Vel raised one of his upper arms. There is a matter I wish to discuss. Joren cracked one eye open. Sounds serious. Your recovery has provided unexpected insights. Your physiological adaptability is significant. However, it is your behavioral variance that remains difficult to quantify. You mean the jokes? Vel nodded. And the refusal to remain still during discomfort. Your kind appears to weaponize levity. It's not a weapon, Joren said, sitting up slightly. It's armor. Vel made a note. A defensive mechanism. Exactly. If something's scary, we make it funny. If it hurts, we laugh at it. Keeps us from going nuts. Vel considered this for a moment. Do you ever stop? Joren leaned back. Only when it's over. Later that evening, after a nutrient-dense meal that tasted like raw oats and battery acid, Joren made his way to the observation deck. Vel had granted him limited mobility clearance, allowing him to explore non-restricted areas of the ship. The deck was quiet, sparsely populated by a few crew members reviewing star charts with instruments that resembled floating coral. A large panoramic window displayed the swirling gas clouds of a nearby nebula, its colors shifting slowly from violet to crimson. Joren stood at the edge, hands on the railing, and exhaled softly. Looks like someone spilled pain across the universe. Behind him, a soft shuffle of footsteps. Vel joined him, his form reflected faintly in the glass. You were cleared for rest quarters, Vel said. I know. Just wanted to see something not teal-colored for a change. Vel followed his gaze. That formation is known as the Valerie spiral. It is composed of ionized particles and superheated dust. Joren nodded. Looks like home. Vel blinked. Your planet does not resemble this formation. It's not about looks. It's about chaos. Colorful, beautiful chaos. That's Earth in a nutshell. I thought your world was classified as temperate and carbon-based. Yeah, but we're messy, unpredictable, sometimes brilliant, sometimes dumb enough to lick a frozen pole just to see what happens. Vel didn't respond immediately. He seemed to be processing that. After a moment, he said, there was a report filed last cycle. A human engineer aboard the Zithran research vessel bypassed a reactor safeguard to repair a cooling module using compressed beverage tubing. Joren grinned. Sounds about right. He did not inform the crew. He claimed it was temporary genius. That's either the name of a band or a really solid autobiography. Vel turned to face him fully. Why do your kind consistently take risks that defy logic? Because logic doesn't always get the job done, Joren said. Sometimes instinct works better. Sometimes we just trust the crazy idea because it's all we've got. And if it fails, then we try again. Or build something out of the wreckage. Vel studied him for several seconds before speaking again. You are difficult to predict. I prefer creatively unreliable. That night, Joren lay in the med bay's recovery pod, the lights dimmed to a soft amber. The brace had been replaced with a lighter stabilizer band, and his pain had dulled to a manageable throb. Vel stood nearby, monitoring his vitals. You will sleep now? Eventually. Vel adjusted the environmental controls by a fraction. Do you require auditory stimulation? Nah, I'm good. Just needed to think. Vel remained silent for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, he said, do you believe you would have survived without assistance? Nope. No way. Vel looked down at him. And yet you made light of the danger. I didn't have anything else to offer. Vel's head tilted slightly. You had your resilience. Joren smiled faintly, eyes closing. That's just stubbornness in a fancier outfit. Vel stayed for several minutes longer, watching the human's breathing settle into a steady rhythm. He made a final entry in the log, then powered down the monitoring interface. As he exited the chamber, he paused briefly at the door. Perhaps unpredictability wasn't a flaw. Perhaps it was just another form of survival. He filed the thought away. There would be more humans soon, and he suspected none of them would make any more sense than the first. The rehabilitation corridor vibrated faintly beneath Joren's feet, a low-frequency tremor that started at the base of his spine and made its way up to his molars. He paused mid-step, one hand braced against the wall. The sensation stopped after a few seconds, replaced by the usual background hum of the Ylrex's core systems. Is that normal? He asked, glancing at Vel, who was walking beside him with a monitoring device cradled in his lower arms. There was a minor course correction, Vel replied. The ship recalibrated its trajectory around a debris cluster. Well, you might want to warn a guy before the floor tries to do jazz hands. You remained upright. Barely. My spleen's still on probation. Vel adjusted the device, then gestured toward a narrow side alcove. Rest interval. You've completed the required distance for today. Joren stepped into the alcove and lowered himself onto a curved bench, exhaling through his nose. His breath still caught occasionally at the bottom of his lungs, but the sharpness that had once lanced through his ribs had dulled to a manageable ache. The stabilizer band contracted slightly as he sat, reading his posture and adjusting to support his spine. How's the bone knitting coming along? He asked. Your femur has achieved 64% regeneration. The osteogenic mesh will be removed tomorrow. That fast. He leaned back, eyebrows raised. Thought I'd be stuck in this thing for another week. Human skeletal systems respond favorably to adaptive stimulation. Your compliance with therapy has accelerated the process. Don't make it sound like I'm some model patient. I threw a protein block at your assistant 2 days ago. She was not offended. The block did not make contact. Joren rubbed his eyes, chuckling lightly. Still, I feel like I should be more grateful and less crabby. Vel folded one set of arms. The other continued entering data. Recovery is not linear. Emotional fluctuation is expected. I've been told that before, Joren said. Usually by people named Linda who hand me pamphlets about breathing exercises. Vel blinked once. Do you wish to speak with a psychological liaison? No offense, but I think I'd rather try another round of space oatmeal than talk feelings with a glowing squid. The liaisons are not cephalopodic. Still, pass. Vel didn't press the issue. Instead, he opened a compartment in the wall and withdrew a small container. You are cleared for an optional neural stimulation session. It may alleviate residual discomfort. Is that the thing with the headband and the weird tingling? Yes, though the tingling is not universal. Joren eyed the device. You ever tried it? I do not possess a comparable neural structure. Right. Forgot you think with your pancreas or something. Vel offered the device, which Joren took reluctantly and placed atop his head. It adjusted automatically, warming slightly as it aligned with his temples. Begin session, Vel said. A quiet tone pulsed in Joren's ears. His vision blurred faintly at the edges, but it wasn't unpleasant. He closed his eyes and let the sensation wash over him. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. When the session ended, the tone faded and the headband cooled. Joren removed it slowly. Okay, he said, blinking. That was less weird than I expected. Your pain threshold has raised by 4%. Is that good? It is statistically significant. Joren tilted his head. You know, I've been meaning to ask. Why do you track everything down to percentages? Isn't it exhausting? Precision enhances outcome. Yeah, but don't you ever just say, hey, you're doing pretty well? Like, without numbers. Vel hesitated. You are recovering at a satisfactory pace. Almost sounded like a compliment. Then I will attempt again. You are recovering well. Joren smiled, not broadly, but with something close to warmth. Thanks. That actually helps. Vel nodded once and returned the device to its compartment. They moved back into the main corridor, where a trio of crew members passed by. One of them, a tall, insectoid being with a translucent exoskeleton, clicked its mandibles twice in greeting. Joren nodded back, unsure if that was the appropriate response, but deciding it was better than nothing. "Do they know I'm not contagious?" he asked. Vel glanced at the crew. "They're not avoiding you. Their species does not engage in unsolicited proximity." "Okay, but they definitely looked at me like I was a walking rash. They are unfamiliar with humans. Then maybe I should introduce them to sarcasm and sandwiches." Vel stopped walking. "It is not required that you integrate with the full crew." "I'm not trying to make friends," Joren said. "I just don't like feeling like the weird pet someone brought onto the ship." "You are not a pet." "Then stop checking my temperature every 5 minutes." Vel looked at his device. "I have not checked your temperature in over 9 hours. See? That's what I mean. You even track that." Vel tapped something on the screen and then gestured toward the lift at the end of the corridor. "Your quarters have been reassigned. You are no longer required to remain in the med bay." Joren blinked. "Seriously? You are stable enough for private habitation. A segment has been modified to human specifications." They rode the lift in silence. When the doors opened, Joren stepped into the new quarters and looked around. The space was modest but clean, with neutral lighting and a bed that looked more like a lounge chair than anything traditionally earthy. A small table near one wall held a folded uniform. "Wow," he said. "This is actually kind of nice." There is also an environmental control system. You may adjust gravity and humidity within safe boundaries. Joren walked over to the bed and tested it with one hand. It adjusted instantly to his pressure, forming a shallow cradle. "This beats the cot I had back in the med bay. I will return in 2 hours with your evening supplement." "Make it spicy," Joren said. "Or at least not gray." Vel turned to leave, then paused. "You have been cleared for limited non-medical interaction. If you wish to observe ship operations, I can request a supervised visit." Joren looked up. "You offering a tour? You were curious." "Curiosity aids recovery." "Then yeah, I like that." Vel nodded once and departed, the doors sliding closed behind him. Joren sat on the edge of the bed for a while, letting the silence settle. For the first time in days, his body didn't feel like a fragile puzzle held together by duct tape and luck. The pain was still there, but it no longer dictated his every movement. He stood, walked a slow circle around the room, and stopped by the window. Outside, stars drifted past in long, deliberate streaks. He pressed a hand to the glass. "You know," he said aloud, "this is the weirdest vacation I've ever had." No one answered, of course, but for once, that felt okay.